Hello everyone, my name is Kate Marshall. The name of my channel is called Inked Paper Art, and today is day 100 of 365 days of junk journal ideas. We are less than a third of the way there, so we're at day 100. Today we're going to make postage stamp clusters, meaning they are a cluster, a paper cluster that you're going to add a little postage stamp to. You can have the postage stamps in the background, you can have the postage stamps in the foreground, but your clusters needs to be very, very small because later, not in this video, we're going to make the clusters in this video. And then I will have another video where I'm making a different project that uses the postage stamp clusters in that project. So kind of a part one and part two. Now it doesn't have to be, you can just make postage stamp clusters and use them to decorate pages and pockets and tags and all that kind of stuff in your journals. But if you want to save some postage stamp clusters that you make today for the next project, that would be good too. Okay, so things that you can put in postage stamp clusters, any of the fabricy little things like this that was stamped would be good. Offcuts of paper would be good. That one's sticking to me. I've got just a bunch of different, offcuts of digitals. I've got some scraps of Florentine paper over here. I've got some scraps of coffee dyed. I've got rag paper book pages, and I've got handwritten pieces and dictionary pieces. So grab your scraps. Because these are small clusters, scraps will work really, really well for this project. And so I just have a big random pile of basically everything I've been working out of for the last few weeks is here in this pile. And it's just, all these little torn pages. I do like to add music paper to my stamp clusters and also doily to my stamp clusters. But all of this kind of stuff where it is tiny, little odd torn pieces of paper, that works great. Any type of small pieces of cardstock work great as well. So grab your scraps. Let's go ahead and get started with this project. Man, I just keep finding more and more and more scraps. Okay, so scraps, all of that. We're going to want some postage stamps, obviously. I have a bunch of, these are all packets of the same exact stamp, and so I have them all for different colors, so I can pull out whatever color I need. Those are French ones, these are American ones, so I will be using stamps. A lot of you guys have stamps coming in your packages, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move some of these scraps out of the way so I have a big work surface, because we're going to make these in mass, meaning we're going to make a bunch of them all at the same time. And I think that it works really great to do these this way, because you get to be creative at, like, how should I say this? You get to be creative, but you are mass making, and it goes very fast if you just lay them all out together. So right now I'm just cutting a bunch of tiny little pieces of paper. These are all digitals at this point, and they're double-sided for the most part, so I can decide, which side I want, so that I have a bunch of different looks. Okay, so there's a bunch of small pieces of paper. Let's go ahead and see what else we have here. We have one row of that. Let's see. I've got some music. So you're just going to be pulling things out of your pile here. What else do I have? I have this little piece of, it's a Tim Holtz cardstock, I believe. So there's that. We'll use this here in just a minute. So we're going to make a big pile of our base layer. Your base layer should be it doesn't have to be the largest, doesn't have to be the largest piece of paper, but it should be one of the largest pieces of paper in your cluster. So you can see I'm just taking little snippets off of whatever scraps I find. Other things I like to put in are these little bits, and these are for decorating. So we'll add these decorative layers here in a minute. Let's grab this one. This is an offcut of cardstock as well. And so just a couple of those. You have to keep in mind that your postage stamp is going to be on the top or mixed in here somewhere. So you want your pieces of paper to be big enough to where the postage stamp will be able to be seen, and you're not going to cover up everything. So we've got a good layer going here, different little squares and rectangles, basically. We got a good layer. So from here we have, this is our background layer. We have some pattern, we have some color, We have, you know, these are text, but they at least have some pictures in here, you know, cardstock. So this is our base layer. From here, the next thing I would like to do is go through and add some music paper. And if I had a scrap handy, I would just use a scrap, but we don't. I do want to cut off the majority of the excess border because these are small little clusters. We don't want to have our cluster just be filled with open space. So from here, I'm going to take these down very small, and I'm just going to start snipping. And I'm going to lay them where I think that they need to go. Rough torn edges are great. If you don't have a rough torn edge, that's fine too. Cut is also great. These are very quick makes. You don't need to stress about them. You can do some different shapes if you want, like those are longer, skinnier pieces. And so now we're putting a layer of music on top of all of our bases. And so you can see I'm just snipping these down, and you can arrange these later. Right now you're literally just layering it on there. And then for this one, let's go ahead and use this. I put it to the side and then I changed my mind. So let's put that on there. This one can go here. And we need one more piece, one more little piece of music. So everything got a base layer with color, pattern, texture. And then the next layer was music. Oops, two more. And then everything got music. Okay, good. The next layer I would like to put on these is some textbook page. So textbook page adds a different element. It's, you know, it's different than music. It's different than the color and the digital printable we have going on back there. So here's a big pile of some scraps of text. This one has white border on it. I'm just going to snip it for now and see how it works in these clusters. Here's another one where it's just, you know, a small piece of text. Oh, that one has nothing. Still need music. There's that. So I'm just cutting these down. Some are more square, some are more rectangle. It doesn't matter at this point. Here's a larger one, a smaller one. And these are just coming from these small offcuts. And so we're just going to cut off some of this excess white border, and we'll cut these down. There's one for that one. Here's a couple for those. So you go through layer by layer and build these. Then you do the final arranging later. The final arranging is your last little bit where you assemble it. The goal is to get everything in little piles before you begin to assemble. So here we go. I think everything has text on it. Okay, got a couple extra pieces of text. I need a couple more pieces of music. I see one needs to go here. Which one was it that didn't have any music? Maybe that one? Okay, so I think we have these three layers. Something with color, texture, pattern, whatever back there. Mostly color and pattern. Then we have music. Then we have this one which has text. The next layer is really, it's really, you know, whatever you have. Like I have this copy dyed graph paper that can be torn, and that can go into a couple of them. I don't really even care which ones it goes into, but we're just going to tear it and put them in there. Okay. And then after that, we can put doily in a couple, and we can change these around too as we go. I have this torn piece of doily here. So let's go ahead and tear off more sections of that. And it's just torn how it's torn. I don't care about it. It's all fine. You don't have to have a certain number of pieces in these. You can see I was very rough with it and just tore it. We're not aiming for a certain number of pieces. We're aiming for a little pile. Just a little pile. I would say you want your cluster to be at least 3 pieces of, you know, 3 elements. But if you don't have 3 elements, that's okay too. But 3 generally is the minimum. And then from there, you can put whatever you want to put on them. Okay, so we have some nice little piles going now. Okay, so we have nice little piles going. The next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take some of these. These are the small collage strips from Tim Holtz. You're going to want to take these and you're going to want to start snipping them into the small little segments. These are broken up into little segments already. You're just going to snip those small little segments right out of there. And you can make them as small or as large as you'd like to make them. However, for these ones, since they are postage stamp clusters, we're going to cut them pretty small. So you can see like this one, it just has natural little segments back there. You're just going to snip them into little segments. You can make them small like these ones. There's 3 little elements. You can certainly make them small like that if you want to. So I'll cut them as straight as I can cut them into 3 little segments. I always have coffee before I come in here and film, and that just makes things extra challenging, doesn't it? So I'm going to cut up a couple of these strips, not too terribly many, but I will sit here and cut up some strips. And these ones we're just going to work into our postage stamp clusters. Now you may or may not want to use the photograph portions of these. That's up to you again. We'll have to see how they work. And then let's do a neutral one. I don't remember exactly which pack these are from. I think these are just his everyday small collage strips. He has the large collage strips, and I think these are the everyday small ones. So the little tiny sentiments that are in there, those work great too in these little clusters. So I'm just cutting those small. And okay, we have enough to play with for this round. So we'll set these other ones to the side. If I need something else, I can come over and grab it. We are now ready to assemble our little clusters. So at this point, for these clusters, I have 5 elements in each one of these little piles, and I have this little pile of things to play with. The next thing you want to do is make a pile of postage stamps. It goes much faster if you just go ahead and pick out postage stamps that you think that you're going to want to use and pull out a little pile of them. So let me assemble a little pile of all of my postage stamps from these little packets right here so that we can play. Okay, so now the fun part of arranging your cluster. If you want to ink things, then go ahead and do that. You want to start arranging your cluster to where you can see as much of these layers as possible. So you want to start with your biggest piece in the back. You want to arrange it so if I want to see that little yellow rose there, then I need to arrange these so that I don't cover that up. As best as you can. You know, it's a cluster. You are going to have to cover things up. That's just the way that clusters work. So you're arranging, getting it all in there. I have decided I want this graph paper somewhere in here. Not really sure where it's going to fit. It's going to have to get tighter like this. There we go. So I've got a tiny little cluster there. It's just a small little, let me bring the lighting down just so that you guys can see just a little bit better. It's a little too bright in here. But anyway, there's a little cluster. And now I'm going to pick out a stamp that matches and just kind of see how that looks. That looks pretty good. So from here, I'm going to take my tiny attacher and I'm just going to staple right in the center. And I'm trying to catch all my pieces. Just kind of give it a little play and make sure you got all your layers in there. And then from there, I generally don't do this for every one at a time. Usually I go through and I staple them all. Then you're going to take your art glitter glue, put it right over top of your staple and kind of, you know, make a little swirly there for your stamp to hang on to. Then your stamp goes on the top to cover up that staple. Whether you keep your stamp straight or crooked or whatever is up to you, but get your stamp on there to cover up your staple. And then that, that is the finished cluster. So that's actually a little larger than what I would like these to be. So I'll have to try to trim these down just a little bit as I make them. But usually I go through and assemble them all and staple them. And then I will glue those stamps onto the top of them here in just a second. So let's go ahead and make all of these ones. And sometimes all you need to do is just pick up your little pile and just, you know, you get what you get. You can kind of see some layers poking out there, and that's just, you know, it's going to have to be good enough. We might turn that just a little tiny bit like that. You can kind of see layers. This one not as much. So you can try to adjust just ever so slightly. But the idea is to keep these very small. So you don't want them to grow and grow and grow. So that's good for me. So part of the reason why we make those little piles is because sometimes naturally, just when you pick it up, you end up getting what you were after all, you know, the whole point of it was to make a little cluster. Sometimes your pile, it just picks up and it is the perfect little cluster the way it is. This one I needed to zhuzh a little bit. Got that lovely music paper, and I just would like to see that a little bit more. Again, see, when you play with it, it just grows and grows. So I got to bring it back in, and that's good. And staple. You can see that I am, for the most part, leaving that doily on the top. And that's because it's a nice landing spot. It creates a better visual focal point for that postage stamp, which is, you know, colorful and pretty to be seen. So I'm just going to move this just a little bit, get some color there. And if it's not enough color on one side of this paper or enough pattern, then I can come back and use the other side. I really like that piece of blue sticking up there. So let's kind of poke that in there. It's just a little fussy because you've got such just tiny little bits of paper to work with. And for this one particular, I like the way that I've done it. I like the arrangement, but see this hard edge coming out down here at the bottom? I don't really like that hard edge, so you can go in and you can do a little edit just like that. Fine, we're moving right along. Let's get these ones done. So this one, I've got this black pattern down here at the bottom. I really like that. Pretty much like everything else, except for I'd like to see this music. So you can flip your pieces upside down. You can move them around just a little bit. That looks pretty good. Let's staple. This is why I say you might want to get some staple refills, because if you sit down even for half an hour and play with this, you're going to end up with a pretty large pile of, you know, clusters. And so you might want some staple refills. I'm just going to play with that one a little bit. Sometimes you need to turn them sideways, turn your pieces sideways so that they're like, you know, some going up and down, some going horizontally. There we go. Let's see if we can just pick one up and say, oh, it's good. It's close. This one's a little bit too big. We need to bring these in just a little. There we go. That's better. And staple. So we're going to work through all these. When you lay down your pieces, it is really good if you can lay them on top of each other, just so that, you know, you're aiming to just pick that pile up and staple it. That one's good. I like it. Let's do it. Okay, so this one, sometimes you need to make them be like more of a V. That's pretty good. One of these goes down here. So these ones, I don't have that graph paper on. So I only have 4 elements for these. Notice I didn't use any of these pieces yet. All of these ones have graph paper, and that was their 5th element. Right here in these piles going forward, I only have 4 elements, meaning I'm going to want to pull a 5th out of one of this pile just for some added, you know, texture, color, whatever. So let me line up these pieces first. I want that music on the outside so I can see it. I'll put this text going that way so I can see it. We'll have the doily like that. And now for this one, you can add a little focal point that's not a postage stamp if you want to. Let's add something that has more text to it, or something textural maybe. I like this piece. Let's get that in there. And you're playing with the small little pieces. If you don't like tiny little pieces of stuff, this may not be the project for you. You can certainly use everything I just told you to make a larger cluster. That's fine too. Sometimes we've got to go like that. That's better. Okay, there we go. So you could certainly make larger clusters. And you don't have to, like, this is fine. I like the way that one is. You don't have to add that other layer. I'm just going to do a couple like that. Let's pick this one up. So all we're getting here for this layer is the end of that music paper. So I'm going to take that music paper and flip it around so that I can get some of the music showing. Perfect. I like this one too, so we're not going to add another one. Visually, it tells me whether it needs it or not. This one has the graph paper. So we're going to put my music paper back in there. You're not aiming to cover up that back piece. The back piece is meant to be seen, but only bits and pieces. So there we go. That one has 5. This one only has 4. So let's add a piece to this one. First of all, there's no cardstock in this one. This is just simply papers. That's a beautiful little cluster bit, but we need more. So from here, we could add a little bird back there. He could be peeking out. I really like that. Let's do this little bird, but let's move this up. Perfect. So we have that little bird back there. So when you use a cluster, you're going to be able to see these little elements in it. They're not meant, how should I say this? Just because you covered up most of the bird, it's not the same as, like, you don't want to chop a bird in half. It's not the same. You're really aiming for just little bits and pieces of this to come out in your cluster. You just want the hint of a bird back there. You want the hint of music paper. So, that was, oops, we didn't get that one stapled. If you miss stapling, you can go back in and staple it again. Where was this? I think it was under here. You can go back in and staple again, no problem. If you want to just glue it, you can glue it too. We are going to cover up our staples there. So anyway, you just want the hint of things back there. For these little strips, where's a good little strip? This one right here. It says little things. So little things is perfect. After you put your postage stamp on, then you can go in with the little things and put it across there. And it's beautiful, and because it is such a tiny little cluster of beautiful little elements, little things is perfect. If I was going to put that on, I would definitely use art glitter and glue it, and I probably would ink it before I put it on. So all of those little tiny sayings that are in here, this one says, "A place in my heart," that would be perfect. Just ink around it and then glue it over the postage stamp at the end. So now we need postage stamps on all of these. Because I am mass making, I'm going to add glue to a bunch of them. Not too many, because art glitter does dry fairly quickly. So I'll do 4 at a time. And then we will pick them up. If you want to use tweezers, if that is how your brain works, go for it. This is a very neutral one, so let's just add this black postage stamp to it. There we go. There's that guy. I'll show you them all again at the end. This guy has a little bit of red showing, so let's do one of these pinky red stamps. There we go. This guy's got some blue showing. So I'm trying to, make these postage stamp clusters. I'm trying to color coordinate them. I think there's 2 stamps here. There is. Color coordinate them as much as I can, just based off of how I know I craft, right? Sometimes I'm making something where I need something blue, something more neutral. I really like this one too. Let's do it. So there's that guy, and then we need to add more glue. So this is the way I work with these. And you can see in just a little bit of time, you're going to have a bunch of clusters built. And then if you save these clusters, we will be able to move on to the next thing, because we're going to do something with these clusters. Something fun. Okay, so working back here, I've got this one. I'm dying to use one of these like burgundy colored stamps. Let's do that one there. Ooh, that is very pretty. I like that. Okay. And then we've got a light blue one again. Let's use the yellow and the light blue. My stamps were all in those bundles of 100. If you guys ordered these during the live sale, the super sale, your stamps are coming. All of your stamps are already in your boxes and ready to go, or shipped already to you, depending on where you are in the line. But definitely, you've got stamps coming if you ordered them. Okay, this one is very neutral. Let's do some greens. We haven't really done greens yet. Okay, it's just one. Some of the stamps feel like they're more than one stamp. Here we go. And then this one, let's do this light purple on this one. That one's really cute. I don't have glue on these ones, so I need to add glue. And I like to add the glue right over the staple. It's just another way of hiding that staple. I don't like to see the staples. We'll go for the rest of these and see if we can get them done. I don't like to see the staple, and I think that the glue actually helps hold the staple in place, just in case. Okay, so I'm going to do another neutral one. Let's do this, oops, maybe this guy. Very nice. This guy needs a light blue one. A yellow also would have been nice, but we're going to do light blue. And then this guy. Let's do this color. It's kind of like a light brown, a cocoa brown. Ooh, here's one with a lot of postage cancel on it. That's beautiful. This guy I think needs green. Let's do this man. These are called head stamps or portrait stamps, where they just have somebody's bust, their head on it. There we go. And then this one's the one with the bird, and I know I want that yellow. Or do I want the green? Go with the yellow. And I feel like we're losing a piece here. No, we're good? Okay. There's that one. I think we need to do a little tearing on that one. And I do have some pink stamps. And apparently this is the only cluster I'll use one in because it's the last cluster. But there's a little pink stamp. So there's our clusters for this round. And I will just sit here and continue to make clusters until I'm done with it, until I'm bored. And then I'll just keep these either in like a little Ziploc bag or something like that. Now, if I want to come back and add some little sayings, the Tim Holtz clippings books, I don't have one in front of me, but Tim Holtz makes these little sticker books. They're called clippings, or I don't remember what else, but he has sticker books that just have little tiny words like this. You can certainly use those and put those across. So I like to do that. It does look nice. You can see no matter what one I put this on, it's going to look great. The little things, like this would be super sweet here too. Little things. It's just a cluster of little cute little bits. All the things that we love about paper crafting, especially using vintage and antique supplies, they're all in here. So let me quickly roll through and show you guys these. And then we will wrap up this video for today. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to find out what we are going to use these for, make sure that you subscribe and come back. We will do that video here in a few days to show you. But I think we ended up with 5 layers on just about all of these. And I really just took from what was laying here next to me in basically a trash pile. And I mean, some of these pieces of paper you guys would have thrown away because they were so small. So this is also a reason to not throw away, as if you needed more of a reason to hoard paper, but also a reason to not throw away all of your little scraps, because even the smallest scrap makes something beautiful. And if you don't know how to use these, like in a journal, just think about the top of a journal page like this. Now this one has some, has some decoration up there. This one is not as decorative up here, so you could take your little postage stamp cluster and just glue it down to your page. You don't want to glue these. If you're gluing them to a page, you don't want to glue every little bit of it down. You just want to glue that final back layer and then glue it, because you want the paper to be kind of ruffled and fluffy like this. Okay, it's not supposed to be completely flat. It is supposed to be where you can kind of peek in and see all those layers in it. So you could glue it to the top corner. You could certainly glue it down on the bottom of a pocket to decorate a pocket. You can use these if you made a little larger one or whatever as a side tuck like this. Many different ways of decorating things with that. But anyway, a couple quick ideas. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining. I will see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.